Okay, so today we're going to take a deep dive into something pretty interesting, a peace rally.
Yeah.
It took place on Trig in Ljubljana, Slovenia.
Wow.
On March 27th, 2025.
Okay.
Now, this gathering was put together by a group called Ljubljana.
I see.
And that's actually Slovenian for Voice of the People.
Okay.
So right away you can tell it was a grassroots kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So for this deep dive, we really want to get to the heart of what these people were trying to say.
Right, yeah. And we actually have some video of this rally. So we get to see and hear it.
Yeah, it's like we're right there.
Exactly. And that lets us really understand what's going on. You know, more than just reading about it.
Yeah, so let's start at the very beginning of the video.
Okay.
It's kind of surprising, actually. You hear these little snippets of, like, everyday life.
What do you mean?
Like, someone mentions going to the library, someone's talking about learning guitar.
Huh.
It's not what you expect at a rally, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like they're just regular people.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how peace isn't just some big political thing.
Right.
It's part of their everyday lives.
And then there's music.
Oh, yeah.
Blowing in the wind.
Classic.
And then John Lennon's Imagine.
Wow.
Those are like the ultimate peace anthem.
For sure. So what do you think they're trying to say with those songs?
Well, those songs are tied to a lot of history.
You mean like protest movements and stuff?
Exactly. Blowing in the Wind is all about asking questions.
Right, like searching for answers.
And it says a lot about how people were feeling, you know.
Like they weren't happy with things as they were.
Right.
Hoping for something better.
And imagine. It's like Lenin's vision of a perfect world.
Yeah. No war, no possessions, no religion.
Like starting over completely.
It really makes you wonder what kind of change these people at the rally were hoping for.
Okay, so after the music, there's this big speech.
Okay.
And the speaker jumps right in, talks about a genocide over the Palestinian population and how Israel is destroying Gaza and the West Bank.
That's strong language.
And they don't stop there. They talk about Israeli colonization and apartheid of Palestine.
Giving a historical context.
Right. They say more than a year and a half of destruction, but also more than 76 years of colonization.
They're making a pretty serious accusation.
Yeah, words like genocide and apartheid.
Those are heavy words.
They carry a lot of weight.
For sure. And when they mention apartheid of Palestine, it's like they're comparing it to what happened in South Africa.
Right, that system of segregation.
Exactly.
So they're saying it's not just a recent problem.
It's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, and the speech goes on to criticize all the support Israel gets.
Like what kind of support?
Political, economic, military support.
I see.
They specifically call out the ZDA and the European Union.
Oh, wow.
And the whole Western world.
They're not holding back.
They even criticize their own country, saying Slovenia is being passive and opportunistic. It's like they're blaming the whole world for what's happening.
Yeah, they're saying everyone's responsible in some way.
And then they start talking about casualties in Gaza.
Okay.
They say over 50,000 people have been killed.
Oh, my goodness.
And over 110,000 wounded.
In just a year and a half.
Yeah.
Those are huge numbers.
And get this, they say over 1,000 children have been killed.
It's just heartbreaking.
It really makes you think about the human cost of all this.
Yeah, it's easy to forget about the real people involved.
Now, one of the big arguments in the speech is that weapons have never brought peace and security.
I can see why they would say that.
And then they directly challenge European leaders who buy weapons and support Israel. They ask, security for whom?
That's a good question. It makes you think about who benefits from all the weapons.
Right, like, is it really about protecting people?
Or is it something else?
Exactly, and the speaker goes on to say that the pursuit of weapons is the pursuit of military industry and capital.
Meaning like it's all about money and power?
Right, and they list all these places where there's conflict.
Like where?
Palestine, Lebanon, Yemen, Syria, Congo, Sudan, Ukraine.
It's like they're saying it's all connected.
Yeah, that the same forces are at work everywhere.
Fueling the conflict.
Right. And then they lay out the main reasons for the rally.
Okay.
They're against the remilitarization of Europe.
Makes sense.
And they don't want money going to weapons instead of public services.
Yeah, like healthcare and education.
They also want to stop Europe from supporting what they call the Israeli genocide.
So they're really trying to change things on a big scale.
Right, and they're fighting against imperialism, colonialism, and the terrorism of the Western world under the rule of the ZDA.
That's a pretty broad critique.
Yeah, they're talking about the whole system.
Challenging the way things are.
And they finish by saying they're against military dictatorship and the capitalist system.
So it's about more than just one conflict.
Yeah, they want to just demilitarized and free world.
It sounds like a totally different vision for the world.
Right, and then things change a bit.
What do you mean?
They have what they call a poetic interlude.
Oh, wow. Like a break from the speeches.
Yeah, there's this quote from a singer named Anjazak Golub.
Okay.
And then someone reads a poem by Wisława Szymborska.
Cool. I like poetry.
This one's called Dlan, which is Slovenian for hand.
Interesting title.
It's about how a hand can create things, but also destroy things.
Like what?
They mention Medveda Poja, which is a Slovenian folktale.
I see.
But they also mention Mein Kampf.
Whoa. Oh, okay. That's a pretty stark contrast.
Yeah, and then someone else comes up and starts talking about World War II.
Oh, wow.
They say it's still affecting Slovenia today.
Makes sense. A lot of places still feel the effects of war.
Right, and they talk about feeling powerless when they see all these conflicts happening.
Yeah, like what can one person do?
And they say that the idea of never again is being challenged.
That's heavy stuff.
They question why humans keep doing the same things over and over.
It's a good question. Like, haven't we learned anything?
And then they say something that really stuck with me.
What's that?
They say weapons are not an exponent, but a killer.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful.
And then they talk about collateral damage.
It's a reminder that war always hurts innocent people.
And then they shift gears a bit.
How so?
They start talking about poetry and art.
Okay.
They say we need poetry, not beauty and shame.
Interesting.
And they want people to be seen as more than just their money.
That's a good point. It's like they're saying we've lost sight of what's important.
Yeah, they want people to be people.
Like recognize our shared humanity.
And they talk about wanting a world where culture and art are valued.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Artists often have a different perspective on things.
And they want people to understand that each life is precious.
It's easy to forget that when we talk about war in abstract terms.
Yeah, and then they point out how war affects everyday life.
In what way?
They say, when there is a war, people don't live, they're unemployed, they have to survive.
Right, it disrupts everything.
And they say, for life, peace is needed.
It's a simple statement, but so true.
And then they get really personal.
Oh,
they say, I don't know you that much, I don't understand you.
Like they're talking to the people who are causing the conflict.
Yeah, and they say, they hope Europe will choose peace.
Like right now in this moment.
Exactly, and they end with this hope that the choice won't be in Mein Kampf.
It's a reminder of the dangers of extremism and hate.
Okay, so then the rally shifts into this call to action.
Okay.
They talk about how all these people have come together. Mm-hmm. People who believe, people who fought cynicism.
Powerful.
To say no to war and yes to peace.
They're taking a stand.
And then this speaker named Michal Blasic comes up.
Okay.
And he starts criticizing politicians who talk about increasing defense capabilities.
Interesting.
He asks, who are we really?
Like, who's making these decisions?
Exactly. And he says the public doesn't have any say in things like weapons procurement.
Right. Like, what are we buying? Who's it for? How much does it cost? How will it be used?
And he even brings up something from the past.
What's that?
He says that politicians bring in their arms in the 90s.
Maybe he's talking about a time when things were different.
Maybe like a time when they were moving away from military spending.
It sounds like he's comparing it to what's happening now.
Right. And then he says that when politicians talk about us, they're really just thinking about themselves.
Like the ruling class.
Exactly. And he says they need this weapon, not us.
It's like he's saying it's all about power and self-interest.
And then he asks this really thought-provoking question.
What's that?
He asks how weapons are going to solve all the problems we're facing.
Good question.
And he lists a bunch of them. The debt crisis, Brexit, the migrant crisis, the pandemic, Ukraine, Palestine, Trump, Putin.
Wow, he's covering a lot of ground.
He wants people to think about whether these are consequences or causes.
Right, like, what's at the root of all these problems?
And then he says something really bold.
What's that?
He says, if the people in power are responsible for these crises, then our enemies are at home, not in a foreign country.
Wow, that's a big statement.
It's like he's saying we're fighting the wrong enemy.
And then he talks about peacekeeping.
Yeah.
What did he say?
He says it's an utopia right now.
Like it's impossible.
Yeah, and then he gets kind of sarcastic.
Oh.
He says that the idea that more money and weapons will solve problems is utopian.
Interesting.
Like, he's flipping the script. He's saying the people who believe in military solutions are the real utopians.
I see what he's doing there.
And he says that everyone would be better off if we lived in peace.
But that's not how the people in power see it.
Right, they think weapons are the answer.
And then what?
He basically says that anyone who thinks they can just stay home and influence the ruling class is wrong.
Like they're fooling themselves?
Yeah, he says none of us has it and we have to face it.
So he's saying we need to do more than just vote?
Right, and then he repeats his main point, which is our enemies are at home.
It's a call for people to really think about where the power lies.
And then they have this whole section on active peace.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
They say that peace is not a passive position.
Makes sense. You can't just sit around and wait for peace to happen.
Right, it's something you have to work for.
And how do they say we should do that?
They say we need to deal with the problems that are causing conflict.
Like what?
And make the people who are responsible pay for it.
Okay.
And they say we need to get involved on a local level.
Meaning like?
In our neighborhoods at work, in front of Parliament.
It's about taking action in our own communities.
Yeah, and they say that's where we have power.
So it's not about waiting for someone else to fix things.
And they say active peace means changing society.
How so?
By stopping the destruction of social welfare programs.
Okay.
And stopping the exploitation of workers and stopping the destruction of the planet.
Protecting the environment.
And stopping privatization.
So they're talking about big changes.
Right, and they say that populists aren't the problem.
Interesting take.
If they're just a symptom of the problem.
Like they're a result of the system failing.
Exactly. And they connect peace to the idea of destroying capitalist society.
Wow, that's a pretty radical idea.
And they talk about building solidarity among workers.
Why workers specifically?
They say workers are the ones who will die on the front.
Meaning?
They're the ones who will be sent to fight in wars.
Right, they're the ones who will suffer the most.
And they end this section with a really powerful call to action.
What's that?
Say no here and now.
Like, don't wait, take action now.
And then finally, they get to their list of demands.
Okay, like a concrete plan.
Right, the last speaker comes up, and they lay out 5 demands.
I'm listening.
First, they want Slovenia to be a decisive and active voice of peace, solidarity, and justice.
Okay.
Not just in Slovenia.
But everywhere.
In Europe and around the world.
So they're aiming high?
Second, they want Slovenia to lead the way in peaceful diplomacy.
Meaning what, exactly?
Through dialogue, international cooperation.
Okay.
Disarmament and limiting weapons production.
It's a different way of approaching international relations.
Yeah, instead of focusing on military strength.
They want to build peace through cooperation.
The third demand is a bit tricky.
How so?
They want to increase military help.
But they were just talking about disarmament.
Right, but this is different.
In what way?
They want to use military resources to create safe routes for refugees.
Okay.
And provide asylum for people who are being persecuted.
So it's about protecting people, not fighting wars.
And they want to help rebuild countries that have been destroyed by war.
With a focus on togetherness and democracy.
Yeah, so it's about using military resources for good.
I can see that.
The fourth demand is about the right to conscientious objection.
That's interesting.
They want people in Slovenia to be able to refuse to fight in wars.
Based on their beliefs.
Exactly, and they mention that men in Ukraine and Poland have that right.
Right.
But then they correct themselves and say it should be for women too.
That's important. Everyone should have that right.
And the last demand is about education.
Okay.
They want schools to teach about peace, nonviolent resistance, and how to respond to crises peacefully.
It's about raising a new generation that understands peace.
Right, and then they finish with this really powerful statement.
What do they say?
They say, enough of nonviolent politics to the current wars.
Like they're tired of empty words.
And they say enough of lies about armament preventing war.
They don't believe that more weapons equal more security.
And they say enough of manipulation.
Like they're calling out the people in power.
And they demand Slovenian and European politics that will build bridges and not trenches.
That's a great way to put it.
And then they do something symbolic.
What's that?
They take their list of demands to the State Assembly.
Wow, so they're really trying to make their voices heard.
So we've seen a lot of different ideas in this peace rally.
Yeah, a lot to think about.
They're against war and militarization. They're focused on what's happening in Palestine.
Right.
They're critical of Europe and the West. They want social justice. And they have a specific plan for peace.
And they're not afraid to speak out?
And we've seen how they use music speeches, poetry, personal stories.
All to get their message across.
It just goes to show how many different ways there are to fight for peace.
And how important it is to keep fighting.
So think about what we've discussed today.
Right.
Think about how people are working for peace in your own community.
And what can we do to help?
And remember what they said at the rally.
about active peace.
Peace isn't just something that happens.
You have to make it happen.
It takes effort and it takes action.